I want to go ahead and thank everybody for being here. We got a good lineup today. So first off is the Michigan National Guard. The Michigan National Guard has some tremendous facilities up in and all around the state of Michigan. Their ability to, the fact that they're so remote gives an opportunity for being able to test without as many restrictions as most others areas would have, because they are so rural and so far out. Fernando, if you could turn your video off. Same thing, Mr. Don Miller.
Sir, I'll switch off. Hi, Eugene.
Hey.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah. So anyway, so trying to to get this going here. Michigan Air National Guard or Michigan National Guard has water, land. They have a great urban training facility in the air at Grayling. A lot of real estate that the colonel is going to talk about here. And following that, we are going to be discussing a hypersonic VTOL as well as a 3D printed two-stage engine. And then the next one after that, we're going to be discussing space debris and how to bring space debris down from space and burn it up in the atmosphere. Another technology that I had heard about that I am working to bring on here, or solution, is there are actually companies that are repurposing space junk. So it's not just trying to bring it out of the atmosphere or bring it into the atmosphere and burn it up, but they're actually going and detaching solar panels and things like that from space junk and then repurposing them on other craft. So hopefully we'll be able to get that lined up in the near future. So with that, I'm admitting a few more people here. A little bit about the forum. We've got a lot going on, working with federal government, trying to get a federal version going, working to get a mental health, autism, neurodiversity, intellectual developmental disability forum, our focus forum going as well. So we got a lot going on, and with that, the people chiming in has slowed down. So I am going to turn this over to Michigan National Guard and bring up their slides here. All right, you see your slides, Colonel?
I do. Thank you. So I appreciate the introduction and being part of the forum today. Have a few charts to go over to explain who we are and those things that we do, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers. So first of all, welcome to the National All-Domain Warfighting Center. This includes a lot of the different assets and capabilities of Northern Michigan. And within this space, annually we train all departments of defense, homeland, and others. In addition to that, we are open for industry integration in some R&D opportunities. Now, our reason for that is we're always looking for those that might have a future nexus, or those innovations might have a future nexus into DoD applications. And by allowing testing, R&D to happen simultaneously while warfighters are training in a joint live fire environment, you get service member touch points quickly, rapidly, and develops that innovation faster. So we welcome those, and it's a unique opportunity for a lot of our industry partners out there, but also for our military and other partners who are training in this space. If you don't mind, you could give me the next chart. So this is a visualization of what is the National All-Domain Warfighting Center on a map. So there are very few places within the United States, for sure, that can do all domain domains simultaneously for a warfighter or for an innovator. So I'll kind of go around this chart a little bit, starting on the left-hand side, that land domain, primarily in Grayling. We have about up to 200,000 acres of training space on the ground. We are the National Guard's largest training facility in the country. Our ranges include the ability to shoot everything from HIMARS, rockets, to lesser caliber munitions. We have a large impact area that we can drop up to 500-pound bombs from the Air Force. And we have more field artillery firing points than Fort Sill, Oklahoma, to put that in a perspective. So a large training area with hundreds of miles of terrain and tank trails and other maneuver space. Now, on top of Camp Grayling is our airspace. And so if we kind of go to the right, all the yellow highlighted areas are different airspaces that we have. So this is about 17,000 square miles of airspace. It's the largest special use airspace for the military east of the Mississippi River. It's about the same dimensions as what you'd find at Nellis, as an example. So it includes our restricted airspace over Camp Grayling, and then other different special use airspace agreements that we have with the FAA up to 55,000 feet. So an enormous amount of airspace that gets ability to train in over that large land domain, but also over the maritime training complex and extending upwards of most of Northeast Michigan. You see that block that says Rogers City. Rogers City, it's highlighted in yellow there. Rogers City is the world's largest limestone quarry. A patriotic American owns the quarry, and we have agreements without charge to us, allowing us about 1,000 acres of real rugged, rough terrain on the shores of Lake Huron to train in. Now, this is not a live fire range or live fire capability, but it is everything less than live. And so a lot of amphibious assaults, Navy SEALs, special operators, that this is a valuable training space for them and a launching point for some of the things we do in the maritime domain. Alpena is highlighted. That's where our CRTC is, Combat Readiness Training Center. Like Camp Grayling, it is built to host, and neither of our bases have permanent party of active duty military. So we are built to host training and those types of events. And I have some charts that will describe that one a little bit more here in a second. You kind of see shaded in red LFX box on the in the middle of Lake Huron there. That's a live fire box capable of shooting and engaging maritime targets in that space. We coordinate with the Coast Guard and NOAA. Coast Guard will help block shipping lanes when requested, and NOAA helps retrieve targets. So if we take out inflatable targets or what have you, we contract with NOAA to make sure we leave the water as we found it, kind of a thing. So great opportunity there. As you can see, it's 20 nautical miles by 50 nautical miles. So another large maritime training area, or live fire training area. And so that kind of covers that maritime domain. And so you tie those together with, of course, overlaying space and cyber. Cyber is everywhere, and we rely on, we have some infrastructure at both Alpena and Grayling providing cyber training, electronic warfare capabilities, and others. But we also rely on partners and even industry to fill gaps with space domain, providing us ISR intelligence and even the capability for linking with our military systems and being able to target and action targets from what we can pick up from space. So an interesting environment. It's one of those few places that you can do all of this stuff simultaneously. With that being said, if you could take me to the next chart.
Okay, would you be okay if we pause just for a second to see if anybody has any questions? That was a lot of information that you put out.
Absolutely.
Does anybody have anything
after every slide? Yep.
Yeah, go ahead and unmute if you have a question, and ask your question. If you don't have a microphone, please pop it in the chat. All right, I'm not hearing anything.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go.
Just real quick here. So this is for potentially joint exercise testing. What is there availability for testing of unique? I'm looking at this and kind of comparing it to some of the facilities that we have at like the Bush Combat Development Center. Is there the capability to do raw test, or is it all like in the field test?
It depends.
Okay, that's fair answer.
So we are not built as a testing facility. What I mean by that is you have to bring what you require for your test. So we can outline all the different capabilities and opportunities, but if you need high-speed camera systems, if you need certain different things, that is on the individual industry partner to come.
Okay.
And we get a lot of that. And typically they're tied to different R&D events, and I'll share some of those here in a minute, but yes, but depends.
Fair answer. Thank you.
All right, if that's it, I will go ahead and move on to the next slide.
So I wanted to include this one. It's I call it our Northern Strike Readiness Layer chart. It's a little bit of an eye chart, but what it explains is, so twice a year, the National All-Domain Warfighting Center hosts our Northern Strike series of exercises. We do it in January. It's also known as Winter Strike, but it is really our Northern Strike -1 rotation. And then we do a large summer Northern Strike exercise in August. The exercise brings up to, well, the last couple of years, close to 8,000 participants. And each of those unit commanders come with their collective training goals and objectives. So each of those different unit commanders come with what they want to train their unit on. And then our team, so rather than building an exercise and telling unit commanders what the exercise is, this planning process starts 2 years in advance, 1 year for some units, and brings in that commander's input on what they want out of the exercise. We build the exercise around that. Now we have scenarios and other things that are baked in, but they come with their talent, with their expertise, and they bring that to the exercise. And then you have that joint fires piece. How do you get all the different types of units to bring their capability to bear where and when you need it throughout that exercise? That next layer is that joint all-domain, JADC2, command and control type stuff. So how do you get all of those units from all of those different branches of government, international partners, et cetera, able to communicate and have a good common operating picture for command and control of those capabilities to the exercise? And we bring that in with industry partners, and we bring it in with government solutions. And then you kind of have that international interagency level. Every year, several countries come, annually. The Latvians are here, Canadians are here, the Brits are here, the Aussies. We are the largest, we'll have the largest footprint of that little island off of China that trains here, and others. And so a lot of our Eastern European countries that would come here regularly have backed off a bit because they have their own challenges over there. They're helping out others, but we'll have some of that presence here annually as well. And then that top layer of this chart is that innovation layer, and that's where we'll bring in all kinds of industry partners. It's just really a smorgasbord of opportunity, I guess. You get things from wearables to things from sights on weapon systems, from small arms up to larger caliber munitions. You get low Earth orbit satellite folks and imagery specialists. You name the technologies, from robotics to drones to counter UAS to electronic warfare type stuff. We'll integrate those technologies into the exercise. And so now you take all of these layers of this cake, and that's what makes this exercise extremely unique, because it's a joint all domain fires in that all domain chart that I kind of shared with you before. So training in all those domains simultaneously with those different layers of command control, international interagency partners, and innovation. And so very unique exercise that brings all of that together. One of the few places in the globe that you'll see this to the extent that we do it. Any questions on this one?
Colonel, I see a lot of potential here. I see a lot of potential here just looking at this. It looks pretty impressive. What I'd like to know is when it comes to virtual technology, augmented reality, is there a place for that kind of technology in here as well?
Yeah, so if there is gaps within the live portion of the exercise, we integrate either virtual or constructive solutions to fill those gaps. So sometimes they're at the high con level, and sometimes they're distributed at a lower level. So every year there's a piece of the exercise that is virtual and constructive. Now, something we're trying to get after, I just got from the state of Michigan $1 million to do the architectural design of a mission training complex here that will be a large facility to host that virtual and constructive piece. Because right now we do it piecemeal in several of our other buildings. We're trying to build a state-of-the-art facility, and I think I got the feds to pay the rest. But besides that, taking those virtual applications and integrating them here, especially when we're getting global distances. So as an example, right now we're partnering with some Eastern European countries, whereas you could have a live exercise in Latvia, as an example, and a live exercise at Camp Grayling. And then maybe that HICON is a division or a corps headquarters somewhere else. And instead of doing a traditional warfighter, where you are only doing virtual or some constructive, now you're doing all three from different remote locations and filling those gaps with both virtual and the constructive piece. So absolutely doing some of this now, but also looking to expand that. And how do we train divisions and corps with a piece of live activity going on throughout the globe, versus just getting a warfighter experience. Over.
Thank you, sir. That makes a lot of sense. And I do have some approaches that it would actually be cool to discuss with you now that I saw what you're doing here. Like, this is pretty exciting. It works with a concept that I was actually talking about with some interested agencies myself. So I'd love to speak with you more about this, sometime in the future soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can arrange that. So
Yeah,
David,
reach
are you
out now.
commercial or federal? Oh, sorry, Colonel. Are you commercial
go
or
ahead.
federal, David?
Federal. Well, this would be for a federal application.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, are you a commercial entity or a federal agency is what my question is.
Commercial.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here.
No problem.
And in addition to that, I mentioned the interagency partners. So I guess I focused a lot on the international, but as far as interagency for our annual Northern Strike exercise, you name the three-letter agency and they probably have some involvement with our exercise, from NGA to you pick the alphabet soup of the three-letter agency, and they're probably doing something within the Northern Strike exercise. Okay, next chart.
And I have a question here from
Yes, sir.
from Paul at DOT&E. Said, I'm sorry, I don't have a mic. Okay. They'd like to understand the business model behind use of the facility. For example, is the range connected to specific mill depth?
So what makes the Camp Grayling complex unique is we are a state-owned facility. So what that means is we have a lot more flexibility. Whereas if you're on a federal installation, you have just different rules. On the state side, I have different rules. I still have rules, they're just different rules. My boss is General Rogers, the Adjutant General of Michigan. His boss is the governor. So our approval process is much, much faster. Now, we still have approval processes. So if an industry partner wants to come in, they have to, we vet them, we sign over an MOA, and we have to make sure they have insurance and those types of things. Anything that's used that was procured with federal dollars, I have to recover those costs. So there's incremental cost recovery. So if you use a range or a building, that's divided on the energy use and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I have to charge for that incremental cost for that particular facility. And that's all I can charge. So the price points are much lower than what you would see at a testing facility. What's also unique, though, is being a state agency, or a state installation, I don't require a CRADA. So any federal installation will require a CRADA. which sometimes is a turnoff for smaller companies trying to get their experimentation going. This is a place that does not require that. So it's a little bit unique. You don't have to necessarily have a DoD nexus because we have other interests and nexus from the state. Sometimes it could be a state of government solution. Sometimes it could be a DHS solution. Sometimes it could be a Department of Energy solution. So we, have different flexibilities there. But for the exercise itself and getting integrated in the exercise, yes, those are those things that we're looking that would enhance that warfighter. And as we see those technologies, if they, have a SIPR or they don't, if they're just starting out and we like this, and we will do the safety vetting of the thing, we can integrate much faster than what a typical industry experience would be. So a lot of words there. I hope I answered the question, but I'll pause to see if I did or didn't.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the chat.
Okay, so
Yes.
this is a takeaway chart, if you will. It just shows that land piece of what Camp Grayling is and what's available. So I mentioned the 200,000 acres. We have 482 miles of tank trails or unpaved trails. I've got 83 miles of paved roads. I got 420 buildings. And again, everything on here, we have our own rail spurs. We have an airfield with 2,005-foot runways, firing points. You mentioned our urban training area, which includes underground tunneling, but it also is built up like a city, if you will, with 26 buildings. And then we have our live fire and direct fire capabilities. So this chart just kind of is a quick overview on what that land portion or the Camp Grayling opportunity has.
Yeah, and I wanted to highlight too that your buildings are concrete block and not stacked containers, which a lot of the facilities just take 53-foot containers and stack them.
Yeah, no, these are real buildings. Frankly, they look better than some of the buildings downtown Grayling, which the mayor gives me a hard time about in jest. But we have, roundabouts, paved streets, and camera systems for a bunch of these. And we're adding this year a lot of cyber effects. So, how can you, delve into going into an urban area and taking over or interjecting into the camera systems or key card systems in our buildings without being, traced and other opportunities. So we, that particular training area has some unique capabilities as well.
All right, I'll move on. Now, I know there's a lot of information on that slide there, and the slides will be uploaded to the document repository, which can be accessed through our website for anybody that wants to download the slides.
Yeah, appreciate that. And then Alpena Combat Readiness Center. So I talked about Alpena. This is what their chart looks like. So some of the things they have, we work very closely together. I was on the phone with them 3 times today, as a matter of fact. But they have about just under 700 acres. What's unique, it looks like an Air Force base, right? They have a big runway, and they do have lodging. Again, no permanent party of militaries there, so it's for rotational units to train. A lot of times this is where the air power will stay as they're training in this space, and then drop their bombs and things over at Camp Grayling or utilize the large airspace, or they just fly in, do their thing, and fly out kind of thing. But they have some unique capabilities with their simulation stuff. They also are that nexus for entering that quarry that I talked about. And then we have some special airspaces and things that they're kind of experts with. So together, and we procure things together. We look at those capabilities, expanding, that persistent capability of gaps that we have, and we take that full approach. So, the difference is Camp Grayling's managed by the Army folks, and Alpena is managed by Air Force folks. And I'll pause for questions on this one.
Oh, I'm not seeing anything.
Just real quick, something that we're investing more in, and we have some already. We have some permanent threat emitters, joint threat emitters. This past year, we bought several mobile threat emitters that the F-35s find really unique, and they want they want us to loan them to other installations regularly. We've done that a little bit, with only the only caveat is then they have to come to our exercise and participate. But we're expanding additional threat emitters for both our facilities at Alpena and Grayling. So this chart just talks about we are a 4-season all-weather joint training capability. So not only are we able to conduct all domains and simultaneously, we can do it in a real 4-season environment. So our winter exercise is not Arctic, but it is extreme cold weather type capability with a lot of snow and frozen tundra, if you will. So we work closely with Alaska. I'm flying out there, I think, in June. And what's unique about this is it's expensive to get to Alaska, both for a technology, R&D piece, but also for units to train there. And what Alaska's finding is people aren't ready to go there. Fuels are gelling up. You touch the flat screen and then it cracks. Soldiers don't have the right equipment and they don't want to get out of their tents because it's too cold. So we're trying to overlay, working with Vermont, Minnesota, Michigan, and Alaska, a training approach for those warfighters, taking advantage of each of our opportunities. And kind of Alaska would be the Super Bowl, but this is the place that you kind of shake down in a cold weather environment, either your technology or your training capability from a unit perspective. So that's our way ahead here. We do get a lot of interest here. A lot of special forces have permanent capabilities here, and they use this space to train for winter conditions. I'll pause for any questions on this one.
Looks like we're good here.
Sure.
Yep.
I threw this one on here. As mentioned earlier, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere, which means we have very large spectrum availability. Now, this is really interesting to those folks that are in the EW lane into counter UAS stuff, as we're flying or different robotics and autonomous stuff. Those types of folks find our area very interesting, and they utilize that. You go out into those space, you're not going to have a cell phone coverage in some of it, and you're going to have wide open spectrum. Now, our spectrum requests either have to still go through the Army side or the air side of the house. If it goes outside of those spectrum things that in those zones that we manage ourselves. So depending on what bands you're operating in, that process could take up to 3 months for us to get those appropriate approvals. But the good news is they have yet to tell us no on any of our asks, and that's because of our location. So I haven't received a no on anything yet, but some of those processes, I will caution, they ask for 6 months, but we've been typically able to get those results in 3 months or less. So I share that with the group as well.
So now with your spectrum, are there blocked out spectrums that you can operate at lower power, or no?
We do. We have some of our own authorities locally within the state, and primarily it's been with our relationship with Naval Surface Warfare Center out of Crane. They have some tools that they have given us. We've procured some tools so we can monitor that spectrum and have specific areas that we can locally approve. And then there's other types of spectrum that we just have to get permissions for. So again, that answer kind of depends. But again, I haven't been told no yet. So there's that. But I'm sure there's an industry out there that I might have to say no to, depending on how far their stuff goes.
Okay. So we do have a question. So Mark, you want to go ahead and ask your question, or let me know if you don't have a mic?
Yeah, if you can hear me. Mark Serena, U.S. Transportation Command, Scott Air Force Base. Probably I missed this, but you have for this whole thing, do you have a website or a entry process to request range time? How do we go about that?
Yeah, so great question. We have somebody redesigning our website and actually having it more of an interactive. It kind of stinks. You can clearly reach out directly to me or our deputy or our contacts for sure. In addition to that, the state of Michigan has contracted I think a more appropriate term, they have more of a fancy term, but handlers is what I'll call them. So if you're an innovator who just wants to show up and do your thing and leave, I highly recommend going through one of them. And what they will do is they will schedule, if you're firing something, they'll make sure you have contracted EMS support. If you're having ammunition delivered, they'll make sure that is all checked and done. They will fill out all the appropriate forms, and it's a very, very easy process. Now, they charge folks an administrative fee, depending on what you're asking them to do, because if they have to have people on the ground doing the radio checks, being that liaison with you in the camp, all that type of stuff, because Camp Grayling and Alpena, we don't get funded to do this, so they're an entity that can do that. I would highly recommend it. It's just a much better experience for all, and your price points would surprise you. I'll just use a quick example. I didn't sign any non-disclosure agreement with them. So General Dynamics was just here a couple weeks ago. They had some unique things that needed to shoot and fly and drive with some larger vehicles and drone stuff and loitering stuff. Working with some other partners. They worked through one of these handlers. Everything was taken care of. I talked to the General Dynamics folks afterwards. Their budget person said to me, I said, hey, how was the cost working with these handlers, all the other stuff? And her response was, it was cheaper to do the entire week event with everything we needed to do than it would be to ship our things to Yuma. And that would be just our transportation for shipping. So I share that with the group. You don't have to. If you're a federal or a nonprofit entity, a federal entity, you can book directly with us, but that means you have to do the work yourself. So it just depends on what you want to do. We have a nexus for both, and we can share that entry point, or you can call me direct, and I can set you up with those options. Over.
Yeah, thank you. Just like points of contact for initiation of discussion. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you have your contact information at the end of the slide deck, or?
I don't know if I did, but I can put it in the chat for the group.
Okay, and you can always reach anyone through the technology ideation and the platform and forums.
Yeah, absolutely. Share with whoever you want. Okay, next one. Yeah, this is just a quick overview. The picture in the middle is a picture of a watering hole in the middle of the Serengeti. My boss likes explaining what the National All-Domain Warfighting Center, or what NADWC, looks like. And this was an artist who went out and put some cameras up over a 72-hour period, and then overlaid all those images into kind of the picture you see here. So overlaying everybody that came to that watering hole, you kind of see from dark to day, and that's what this represents. So like the Serengeti watering hole, that's kind of what this NADWC is. So you have the predators coming, you have a little bit of everybody occupying this space, and the question is, are you the next folks coming to the watering hole? From a soldier perspective, it's chance to get on hands-on with the new experiences and technologies out there, and to increase their readiness, and to train within that. And obviously the opportunities to work with our foreign partners. Unit perspective, you're increasing that readiness, you're tailoring that exercise to your demands, and this is a site that they can get after some of their pre-mobilization validation type stuff. From a DoD perspective, allows for very cost-effective alternatives to our existing CTC rotations, our combat training centers, as well as a place that touches on all those domains simultaneously. And then we have reduced costs for other stuff. And then industry perspective, a very unique environment that you will not find at a lot of places, just because of the fact that we're a state entity, the fact that we still have rules, they're just different rules, and that we're very, very cost effective. And to put that in a perspective, I had somebody book a range area. Now they just wanted to do some drone stuff, and they wanted to do some stuff on the ground, not a lot of impact. They didn't need a live fire demonstration or anything else. It was about $180 a day for them. So, it goes up if you want to book the entire urban training area. That's one of our more expensive complexes with 26 buildings, the infrastructure, the tunnels and whatnot. That's probably one of our more expensive ranges, and that's about $2,500 a day. So you likely won't find that, I don't think, anywhere else. We also don't charge for airspace. So when we're talking about those price points for those innovators that are trying to get in and maybe shake down what they have before they go to an ATEC site, we don't want to be an ATEC site. We don't want to, I don't want to go down that path. But if you want to shake down your stuff without necessarily a lot of prying eyes, or you want to present your training or your innovations with the warfighters, this is kind of a good place to do that. I'll pause with any questions on this one.
Hey, sir, is that the price list for which facility we'd want to reserve? Is that somewhere that we can find? And is there like a calendar and availability schedule associated with that?
Yeah, so when I talked about those third party folks, those handlers, if you will, they have access to reserve stuff into the RIFMIS and the scheduling. So this is kind of how we work that. Military units get priority 6 months in advance. So if a military unit wants to do something, they have priority. Now, an industry partner could book something further than that, 8 months, let's say, but military units will have priority up to that 6 month out window. Within that 6 month window, what's available can be booked. So industry can book or units can book if they want to, but there's no bumping. So a military unit, so if an industry partner comes in at that 5 month mark, books out a range, a military unit can't come in at that 5 month mark and bump them. But that schedule depends. So what I'd ask you to do is you can either reach out and say, hey, this is what we want to do when we want to do it. And then we can kind of give you options on what those costs are for what the thing is. Because sometimes there's less expensive options and more expensive options. And we have hundreds of range complexes. So that's probably the best approach, explaining what you want to do. And we can kind of give you some possible solutions and price points and share that process with what you have to do ahead of time. But I will tell you this, we just had I guess it was in January, 10 days notice. They got bumped off another range somewhere else in the US and they really needed to present to a buyer. Cool technology. We got, like I said, it was actually a little bit less than 10 days notice. We were able to book them a live fire range. They were engaging things that flew and things on the ground, and fully supported within that 10-day period. It's not ideal for my crew to be within a 10-day window, but it's happened more than you think. So I hope that kind of answers your questions, but if you have specific questions on, hey, how much is this type of range, I can absolutely share that with you.
No, that's great for now. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to interrupt you for a second here. Tank, can you turn off your camera, please? Thank you, sir. All right, Colonel, back to you.
Any other questions on this one? Okay, and that might be the last one's a question slide, maybe.
Yeah, I have one in the chat. Do your user agreements have any ability to offer multiple groups who have compatible interests, cost sharing, and attempts to coordinate usage? Example, one group wishes to test fly some new drone toys, and U.S. forces or contractor want to do some passive observation to test ability to detect and track drones.
We do it all the time. Yep, even that General Dynamics example, they had a couple other companies come together, and it was all kind of packaged together. And then for our exercise integration, yes, there's a lot of it. There are companies who want to fly their drones, and there's other companies that want to shoot down or engage with other systems. And the makers of both, one will say, you can't bring it down with the counter UAS, and the other one says, I bet I can bring anything down with the counter UAS. And so we kind of merge those folks together regularly. So easy to do. And again, for something like that, those third-party handlers are the best because they can package all of that. They can get all the insurance stuff, the MOAs done. And that would be, now if you're, GVSC is here, they have a permanent presence here. Huntsville has a permanent presence here. Those entities don't go through a third party because they have a permanent presence here, and their folks on the ground handle a lot of that stuff. But if you're coming in to do a 2-week, 1-week test or a few day test, and you want to come and go, I would highly recommend using one of those others. And they'll charge, and they're competitive with each other. But you'll find that I bet even using a third person to handle all of this for you is cheaper than what you're paying at someplace else right now, by far.
All right, this is Eugene again. Real quick, would you be able to put together a slide or two with all of these points of contact and phone numbers or website links? And then what I'll do is when I have my editors separate the different presentations, I will have them put that as an introductory slide and at the end slide, so that people here can go to our YouTube channel and easily be able to access those links
Yep.
rather than try and put them in a chat here.
Yep, absolutely. And then we'll also put our personal points of contact as well. So there'll be a few of those on there, depending on what you want to do. But I'll put all that on one chart for you to share. And again, you're welcome to come direct. I always tell people, are you sure you want to come direct? Because it's more labor on you. So, but we can absolutely do that.
All right.
I'll get you that
Thank you.
today. I think this is one of the last charts here, the searching for solutions. So we have some of these capabilities already, but I don't necessarily have that persistent capability that I want for the long term. So as an example, Camp Grayling, I own about 330 drones right now. We use them for offense and defense capabilities for units training. But we're always looking for the latest technologies that we're seeing in other parts of the globe, and then how do we fight against the land of autonomy, and then how do we protect and be a blue force or red force perspective on that type of stuff. But this is a list of stuff that we are always searching for, either improving our capability, broadening that capability. Some of it might be at a limited scope that I have that doesn't cover the entire NADWC environment. Maybe it only covers a portion of Camp Grayling as an example. But I share this with this audience. If you have pieces or solutions to parts of this, I might be interested. And with that, we do get some funding directly from congressional ad type stuff that helps us expand our persistent capability or environment here. So these are some things that always expanding our contested logistics. We get a lot of logistics folks coming through here, and what contested logistics means from a theater perspective, from contesting things from points of, Michigan has 38, I think, deep water ports. So contesting the ability from a port or from an airfield all the way to the point of use on the front line of a battlefield and everything in between. So we do a lot of that now, but there's gaps there that we want to try and fill and get after. So I just share that as an example, but I wanted to throw this for the group to take a look at, because maybe you have some solutions out there that we're chasing from our own perspective. Questions on this one?
Yeah, there's two in the chat, and basically they want to know, who do they reach out to for next steps?
Yeah,
For these
go ahead and give me a
solutions?
call. I might hand you off to whoever I have working that particular thing. But I'll put my email and phone number in the chat.
Yes,
Email is
please.
probably the best way to start, but don't be surprised if I hand you off to the expert I have in that particular field. So,
All right. You're welcome, Felicity.
any other questions?
That's it. So yeah, any other questions? Anybody have anything else? So I wanted to ask you about your AI and your facility that you're building. Are you talking to OUSD, R&E, or Naval Information Warfare Center Pacific at all on that?
Yep. AFWorks, Air Force Research Labs, and some others as well. I guess there's an echo out there.
Yeah, Bill, if you can turn off your microphone. Or speak. All right, thanks. I'll mute him.
Yes, and a little bit of others too. So when we talk about some of our three-letter partners as well, yes. In addition to that, since I got the group here quick, and I know I'm probably over my time, so I apologize for that. We are doing, the governor is going to announce this next week at the Michigan Defense Expo. I will be at AUVSI next week with sign-up sheets and flyers and save the date stuff. But spring of 25, we are doing a unmanned systems challenge triathlon. So the event will include moving let's say a 10-pound package through a maritime environment, and then without hands or human intervention, pick that package up, fly it 100 miles to a land system, transferring that package and delivering it 20, 30 miles over rough terrain or paved terrain, or a combination of both, to the finish line. This will be very competitive. There will be larger cash awards for it, and we'll have some bigger sponsors there as well. but a unique opportunity to collaborate with other partners. So if you're really good at one of those domains with autonomy and partnering with either academia, government, or industry partners, this will be a very unique challenge. That'll be really exciting. And so I had a long meeting on that one again today as a follow-up, but that's going to roll out next week. I don't want to send the invites ahead of the governor, but I'll share that with this group, as well as we have some cyber challenges coming up where we invite folks who want to participate. The state of Michigan will be hosting one of these in September here at Camp Grayling. And then we also do different industry days. Some of those are primarily to figure out how to integrate into the exercises and show their wares, and at other times to work with those partners. And then finally, we do some venture capitalist days. Sometimes small companies are looking for some money and willing to give some of their company up for that money. Other times, bigger buyers come in and maybe want to buy out a company. Your big folks, I'm going to throw them under the bus, but maybe your primes have a hard time innovating because they're so large. So they end up buying out other technologies. We share that with everybody and who's coming to the party, but we host those events as well. And we can share that with you, Eugene, as part of this ecosystem as we have events that you could push out.
Yeah, no, that'd be great because, we have a community here of over 3,000 within the innovation ecosystem. And I would like to be able to slide that in maybe into the invitations.
Absolutely. So we'll share future invitations with you and you can distribute whoever you want to.
All right. So, one last thing. It was Felicity. The challenge will be in 2025, she's asking.
May of 2025.
Okay. All right. So if you want to hang on, Colonel, if anybody has questions that want to ask him at the end, we can do that. Nick, go ahead really quick. We're 5
Yeah,
6 minutes
sorry
over.
about this. I'm kind of new to this team, but just, thinking out loud here from a continual distributed test opportunity perspective, I know we're partnering with you from NSWC Crane on trying to get some of these TRMC solutions up to Silent Swarm to be able to pull data back into our laboratories. But just trying to think, into the future, if we could understand these test schedules and be able to record and or be able to get this data within near real time, it would definitely posture us very, very well for some of our cognitive system developments and support moving into the future as we work to understand how effective or ineffective our different artificial intelligence machine learning algorithms we're developing for the technology types that we support. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there, and we can have follow-up discussions later if that's something you would like to do, Colonel.
Absolutely. And I'll throw this out for the group too. We announce that, right? So if somebody's coming up here doing R&D, they might not want to share with Big Brother, or they might want to share with Big Brother, but we'll absolutely can share that and then figure out that best nexus to integrate that. Absolutely all in on that.
Oops. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll stay on to the end and I'll turn off my camera. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So anybody, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can talk to the Colonel at the end. So there is one, if you want to check the chat out, Colonel, from someone at Port Hueneme.